welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming. And welcome to my talk about Unity, WebGL, and AirConsole. And I will explain what AirConsole is in a moment. My name is Alice. I am lead game developer for AirConsole. And my job mainly consists of making games with Unity WebGL and consulting other developers that do the same, that use AirConsole's tools to make their own games for our platform. The game that you see on the side there is kind of has been my main project for a while. It's called Silly World Series, and it's a minigame collection for 1 to 8 players. I am not from a technical background. I do mostly program nowadays, but I learned to do that at art school, so it's always a bit not, like I said, not just really where I come from originally. And I'm also not going to go into tons of technical detail in the talk. I'm mostly going to tell you kind of what we do and how we got where we are. What is AirConsole? Let's get this out of the way quickly. AirConsole is a web-based platform where people can play games together using their smartphones as controllers. So setting it up is really easy. You go to airconsole.com on your computer, you get a code. You go to airconsole.com on your smartphone, you enter that code, and boom, it's connected, as you see in the little video on the side. You then use your phone as a controller for our store and for the games. And because you can do that with a lot of phones at the same time, and because everybody always has their phone with them, it's ideal for local multiplayer and party games because everybody can join. It's a really spontaneous way of playing, and that just makes it ideal for spontaneously starting to play if you have a group of people around. The games are playable for free, but we also offer a premium subscription that is called AirConsole Hero, which is used to remove breaks and to unlock some additional content within games or entire games and some additional features. For the developers of our games, that means that they make a game in Unity WebGL. Some other tools are possible, but the majority of games are made with Unity. And they build that to WebGL using the AirConsole plugin. And the controller, what you see on the phone, is actually just a website. So that's not an app, that's not a game. It's really just what you can do in a mobile browser. And the cool thing about that is that AirConsole handles all the complicated stuff, basically. AirConsole takes care of the server infrastructure, which is auto-scaling and can just handle basically any kind of traffic. We take care of connections and networking and device handling, and the developer can just send messages between devices with really easy functions. So that means that the game developer can really focus on actual game development. Let's take a quick look into the past, how we started. What you see on the side there is Pad Fiesta, which was the very, very first version of AirConsole, and it was super ugly. And it was called Pad Fiesta, which is probably not a good idea. And this got built in January 2015, where our founder and CEO had this idea that he wanted to play games with smartphones as controllers, and he realized he couldn't really do that anywhere. So he built it himself. He's that kind of person. But he is not a game developer. He comes from a computer science background and used to work at Google. But he did hear of Unity's announcement that WebGL would be a thing soon. And WebGL actually got released with Unity 5 in March 2015. So exactly coinciding with the beginnings of AirConsole. And by July 2015, we had a team assembled, we had the funding for it, and we all started working together on creating these first games and creating the platform, redesigning it from that to what it was later, and we launched in September 2015. Now, why was Unity WebGL so tremendously important for us and for this initial development? One point that is especially relevant for getting users is just ease of access. Before Unity WebGL, as you probably remember, there was Unity Web Player, which let you play games in the browser, but that needed a plugin to be a browser extension plugin to be downloaded. And installing a free extension doesn't sound like it's a lot of work for the user, but it does deter a lot of them. That's immediately a not insignificant percentage of people that you just lose because they need to download anything. And AirConsole is built all around ease of access and just letting people play instantly and spontaneously and not having to download something is hugely important for that. Then there are, of course, game development tools for web that do not require any downloads, but in most cases they just don't have the power or features that Unity offers. And even if they do, the next most important thing is that they're not nearly as popular among developers already. And that is incredibly important for us because when we started, we already wanted to convince developers to try something new, like to take a chance with us, with our platform, and with our technology. And we didn't really want to also convince them to use a new game engine. So all of this was just the fact that this all coincided, that Unity WebGL was released just as AirConsole got started, was really, really crucial for getting this whole thing off the ground. This is how AirConsole looked on launch day. So not that much like the version before anymore. And this is what we had. We had 6 games. Only one of them was made with Unity at the time. And we had no external developers, so they were all made by our small team in-house. We were 6 people at the time. And we got some initial buzz. We had thousands of players on day one, basically, from around 130 countries or so, because we got just kind of the tech was impressive enough that people shared it around. We were on the front page of Hacker News for a while, and we got a lot of just like exposure from tech people who thought what we do was technically impressive, but not really so much from gamers. And nowadays, it looks kind of different. We now have 75 games on the platform. We've had millions of players try it, play it, and enjoy it. They spend like an average of almost half an hour on the platform. And we have built up a community of over 1,500 developers. And of those 75 games, only a small fraction are actually made by our core team, and most of them are made by external developers from basically every continent. And of the 75, around 2/3, not 3/3, 2/3 are made with Unity, and the others are made with a small game engine called Construct 2, or just JavaScript and JavaScript smaller like engines. But how did we get here? Because barely like a year and a half, 2 years passed between that. How do we do that? First step was the product, because all the exposure in the world doesn't really do you any good if you have a shitty product. One thing that we emphasized all the time was how do you use smartphone controllers? There's a lot of design considerations that need to go into it. Most importantly, don't make your buttons too small so that people can press them blindly, and just don't treat them as a regular gamepad, because it's always going to be worse. But you can use it in a way that it's better than a regular gamepad if you kind of use it as it's meant to be used. That means you can either give players time to look at the controller and then you can have small buttons, or you can do something like display secret information for individual players and have game mechanics that way that are not possible in local multiplayer with traditional gamepads. And we thought a lot about that. We tried to write all of that down, to communicate it to our developers as well. And that was really important. And eventually also our users realized that we're not just doing shitty touch controls. We're actually thinking about this and actually making it work. We're very data-driven in our development of the main platform. That means we're constantly trying new things, constantly A/B testing. So showing one version of something to part of the audience and another version to another, and then choosing what's better. And we made a ton of small improvements that way. The platform looks very different today than it did on launch, and that's mostly due to just finding out, okay, what do our users need and want, and what do they react well to? And one example of that is the front page. The very beginning, that was just a big power button with no information whatsoever. And eventually, we tried different things, and we found out that it's still most important that they can start immediately, so that the start button is really central, that they don't get distracted, but also that they can like understand it with some additional information, that they can read the bottom part that explains it and scroll down for more info. That's just one small example of stuff we learned from the A/B testing. And we also take some pride in our technical reliability. In the almost 2 years since we've been live, we've had 6 hours of downtime total, and all the rest of the time we were available. Then, if you have a product, a game platform, next thing you need, obviously, is content, so great games. So how did we reach game developers? So some stuff that we did that was very good. We held several game contests, where we just put up prize money and asked for submissions. And we got a lot of content that way. In the last content that we held, the main prize was $10,000, and we got over 60 game submissions. We didn't launch all of those. Some of them were in really early prototype stages and really not fit for our audience yet. But we were able to launch more than half, so about 35 of the contest submissions have been launched. And that was always a really cool way to just like to reach a lot of devs and to get new people interested. We try to be present at a lot of conferences, and for that it's always very difficult to say, okay, was this worth it? Because of course going to a conference is always an investment of time, of money, of a lot of hassle, also like preparing it and then afterwards following up with a lot of people. And we do think that overall it was very much worth it, because we like to meet all of these people in person, to talk to them like face to face. But it's hard to really evaluate that. More in general, we try to be transparent. We try to be reliable wherever we can, and we try to be as supportive as we can of our devs. We give like extensive feedback to games that we receive, which is also part of my job, kind of really just telling developers, okay, your game is not ready yet. Here's why, and just basically helping wherever we can, because obviously we want good content, so we do what we can to help devs make good content. Then one of our main kind of channels of game acquisition was a call for projects that we did last year, where we actually funded game development, so that we had a handful of studios make games for us, where we kind of worked together to figure out what the game was going to be. And that's like the few most popular game on the platform right now came to pass because of that call for projects. And we're also going to be doing that again, about which I'll tell you more later. And a number of the games that you see on the side there are actually created by that through that call for projects, and are really popular on the platform. We also made some mistakes, or like at least there was some stuff that that was not quite as awesome. We did a smaller contest sometime with like a lot less prize money, and we figured like, okay, we're still gonna get some few games out of it, and we just realized it's not really worth it. Like, go big or don't. And we kind of decided it made a lot more sense to have fewer but bigger contests, because we mostly do those like, of course, to get content, but also to just reach people, and you have to invest something to get that. Then comes the thing that we monetize the platform relatively late. So at the beginning, for the first year of AirConsole being live, we had no monetization on the platform at all. It was completely free. That, of course, helped us reach a lot of players, because players are much more likely to share it, to try it, to tell everybody about it if it's free, naturally. But on the other hand, developers are much more hesitant to invest time and work into a platform where they cannot monetize their games yet. So I wouldn't say that we regret monetizing late, but it definitely did. It definitely did hinder some of the developments with reaching game devs. So now that we have the product and the developers, how do we reach players? Again, I'm dividing it into good stuff and not so good stuff. We reached a ton of people when we got to the Reddit front page, and there's always, of course, tons and tons of luck involved with that. But we also it's also about just producing smart content that can go viral. And with that, we just had hundreds of thousands of users in a day, and got a lot of really valuable feedback from it. It actually got to the point where users that came to the Reddit thread later on would accuse us of buying positive comments because all the comments were so hyped about it, and all the comments were like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is exactly what I wanted. And eventually people just started up, did you pay for these? Did you do these? And I'm like, no, apparently people just love it. It's amazing. We are working with a lot of influencer marketing, so paying YouTubers and streamers to play our games with their audience or just on their channel. And we first tried that kind of just reaching out to smaller channels directly, sending them private messages on YouTube, sending them emails. That didn't work out quite that well, but eventually we started using external tools that are designed specifically for game developers, or not just game developers, but just like people that want to market something, to get in touch with relevant YouTube channels. And we're seeing big results from that. So we have numerous YouTube videos now where people play AirConsole, and we also have a team of streamers where people actually play it with their audience. Because, of course, the audience can also just like enter the code on the phone and connect. So that's working out really well. This is kind of a small thing. We had when you clicked a link in your email to confirm the email address, we had this little chat bot that would just ask you like, hey, can I ask you a question? And you could like, yes, no. And then it asked you, well, do you like AirConsole? Like, why not like our Facebook page? And that worked out so much better than just a like button, because somehow people enjoyed this little tiny conversation with this chatbot. And that chatbot also asked like, okay, when do you want to play AirConsole again? May I send you a reminder email? And a lot of people had signed up for that. And like, okay, send it to me Saturday at 6. And so we send that email. And even now, a lot of the time, we get replies to that email saying like, oh, thank you guys so much for reminding me. That's so nice. I completely forgot. Which is really cute because, of course, the emails are automated, but we still occasionally read the replies, and it's really, people really like it. And what we also have, of course, going for us is that just the product itself is essentially social. Like when you play AirConsole, you grab other people, you grab your friends, you want them to play with you because it's much more fun to do it in a group than it is to do it alone. And that also just helped spread it, along with the fact that it was completely free at the beginning. What did we do that was less useful? For a while we tried making our own Let's Plays. Like before we started spending money on marketing, we spent some time just recording our own Let's Plays. It was fun, and some people did like to watch them, but it's just like it doesn't scale. It really wasn't worth it doing us. It really wasn't worth it for us, and we just felt like, okay, we'd rather invest that time on the platform and leave the Let's Playing to the professionals. We had issues with our domain reputation because when we started working on email rejection, we kind of hastened into that. And we sent emails to people saying, okay, you played this game on AirConsole, but you haven't played this one. Try this one next, which was automated, of course. And as it turned out, a lot of people didn't want these emails. So it got moved to spam a lot. And it's much easier to fuck up your domain reputation than it is to fix it again. We eventually managed, but it did kind of mean it was hard for us to reach players for a while there. We did get quite a bit of press coverage at the beginning, especially, like I said, from tech outlets. And that was cool. Most of it was always really positive. But we eventually noticed that it wasn't really worth it for us to reach our audience. It didn't exactly get us a lot of traffic. It had very little impact on our stats. And so we just stopped spending time on trying to get press coverage after we were on TechCrunch, which is one of the biggest related outlets, and it had very little impact. We were like, okay, let's spend our time on content instead, which is a lot better time investment for us. And this is where we are today. That's kind of a collage of some of our characters of our games, and we, like I said, 75 of them now from developers all around the world. And now, what our next steps are. As I mentioned at the beginning, AirConsole was more like, oh look, it's this cool tech. Well, the games are not really something, but the tech is cool. Check it out. And then eventually, as we gather more content, as we got more games, it progressed to like just a good all-around product where people are like, hey, look, you can play a lot of games on this. But now we want something more. Now we want games on a platform that are amazing games in their own merit, and not just because they have the gimmick of smartphone controllers and being available for free. So we're kind of looking for the next level of AirConsole games. And we don't have like concepts ready for these, but we are looking for developers to make them with. And really the goal of these is to become bigger than AirConsole so that we can really advertise the game and not the platform, which is kind of what we've been doing for a while. That really people tell each other, have you heard about that game? And not, oh, have you heard of this platform, AirConsole? Obviously, it will be on AirConsole, so it will be good for us, but we really just want really, really amazing games. And for them to reach that next level, they also, of course, have to be perfect for the platform. That means they probably shouldn't have a joystick, because touchscreen joysticks are always less than ideal. And they should really make use of the smartphone controller thing, like players dropping in and out, or players like supporting a large number of players, or using the secret information thing, or perhaps using the gyroscope, or whatever. You can do a lot of stuff with smartphone controllers. And we think that for a game to really reach that next level, it will probably have to do something really cool with it. But what do we offer developers? This is our recently redesigned storefront, which we kind of edited to offer more space for games as opposed to the old one that we had, and all this like feature space. So you see the banner at the top where when you scroll up there, you'll see it kind of full screen almost, and you have a video as well. And you have like just big feature space so that if we get really big games that we think are super important for the platform, that we can also give them the exposure they deserve. Then the influencer marketing I already mentioned. That's just a few impressions of some channels that played AirConsole. And we don't tell these people what to play, but they usually just choose the games that appeal to them. But so if your game is on AirConsole, it can like get these Let's Plays just by merit of being on the platform, because we organize all of that. And your game then gets Let's Plays with hundreds of thousands or millions of views. So the platform at this point is matured. It's not Pad Fiesta anymore. It's not our old initial version anymore. It is now like something that looks like quality at first glance, and we know that because we got here by user testing and everything. These influencer marketing campaigns that I just talked about, and just in general, reach. If any of you have launched a game on mobile or on Steam, you know that there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of games coming out at the same time, and it's not always easy to reach your target audience, especially if you don't have a publisher that handles some stuff for you. And we can provide this reach. We have an audience interested in local multiplayer and party games, and they play the new games that we get on the platform, and that just means that you can get hundreds of thousands of players with your game without actually doing a lot of additional marketing effort yourself. And we don't release as many games on AirConsole, so if you're a new release, you are the new release. We still offer our support to developers for free, although we do have to kind of prioritize on where we spend more or less time. And of course, all the tools that we offer are free for the developer. The monetization is now in place. I mentioned that we have this subscription called AirConsole Hero, and for the developer, that means that it is now a viable business plan to launch a game on AirConsole and to offer some Hero-exclusive content to players, like be that cosmetics or be that additional levels or whatever you think makes sense, like to give the player incentive to buy Hero while they're playing your game. And also, we have some programs going on to further incentivize developers to come to the platform. We have the Accelerator program, where essentially we give a financial reward of $2,990 to games that get launched. This is mostly ideal for ports of games, like games that have already come out on Steam or some other platforms and didn't really reach that local multiplayer audience they wanted to reach because it's hard. and they can come to us instead then, and with very little additional porting effort, because with Unity porting to WebGL is, in a lot of cases, it's rather simple. Not always, but we've made good experiences with that. And yeah, profit from all that reach and all that exposure that we can give devs. And we also have other cooperations going on. So we're, like I said, for that kind of next level of games, we're looking to actively fund game development of studios. Like if they say, okay, look, we have this concept or this prototype, then developers should just come to us and we can fund their development because we want that content. And what we also have is a brand new game dev contest, which we're actually announcing just now these days, but you may have already noticed it on your fidget spinners if you got any goodie bags, because that's on them as well. So if you have a game or have a game idea, you can implement it for the AirConsole platform, submit it until October 31st, and you can win $25,000 or one of the smaller prizes. And in any case, even if your game doesn't win, you can launch it on AirConsole and profit from all that reach that we can offer, all those players we can bring the game to, and of course a regular revenue share after that. And you can find all the information on that short URL or on this one, developers.airconsole.com. That's it for me. Thank you very much.